all intents and purposes should have just been like, hey man, I'm just trying to figure this solution out. This is why having this obstacle and this fence and hands up in this nonviolent posture is so important, because if that guy decides to headbutt, even if you are not expecting it and he ambushes you, this is something that's gonna slow down that attack a little bit.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have? What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend? Is there anything I could do?
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Dangerous Questions, an Ironclad original. The topic and theme today is going to be home invasions. This is a subject that comes up all the time. I mean, let's be honest, if you lay your head down somewhere, it's important to know. You know, is where you're living vulnerable? Do you think about it? Have you had reps? Most people that I run into, that I've trained with in the past, they often don't end up doing something until they've run into a scenario and their life was on the line, or somebody broke in, or something happened and unfolded that made them uncomfortable. You know, we're gonna talk about surveillance cameras, we're gonna talk about firearms, all of the different subjects that kind of go into those. These are the questions that we've been getting about home invasion. So without further ado, let's get into it so you guys can take some of these. Again, always write notes and think about how these things apply to you. Visualize these things. I'm gonna go more into that when I dive into some of these questions, but it's just an important topic. It's something we've got to take seriously. All right, first question. Do you think it's worth investing in a safe room that you can lock yourself in during the event of a home invasion? Okay, the biggest thing that I want to highlight in this scenario, we're gonna go into budget and all that stuff, because some people are gonna look at this and be like, okay, it's nice to watch the movies where you see this nice big safe room with triple doors and armor and guns all over the place, and that's great. But we're talking about a simple place that can be locked down that you can either get yourself and your family into. In the element of being trained, are you trained? Do you have training or not? Is there a level of proficiency that you have with being able to deal with a threat to begin with? The other dynamic and contrast to understand to do I need a safe room or not is how often are you home? If the person that's always training, that's like, home invasion, easy. I don't need a place to lock myself into because I'm gonna take care of the problem. And again, that's me. Do I think I need a safe room? Absolutely not. There's no reason for me to go lock myself in anywhere. Most scenarios I'm gonna be able to go through, identify, and deal with whatever challenge comes my way. My family, on the other hand, well, how trained is your family? How much have you spoken to them about this subject? How much have you worked with them on this subject? Do they go through reps on what to do in the event of a break-in or a home invasion or an invasion no matter where you are, a hotel, your RV? It doesn't really matter. The principles stay the same. Now, again, in an RV, unless you have a giant RV, it's going to be kind of unrealistic to think that you're going to put somebody in an armored box. But let's talk about our home. This is a place that we live, we go back to just about every day out of the year. And I think it's really gonna come down to that question. Are you confident your family's gonna be able to handle a situation like this? Is the risk high enough where you said, you know what, if this happens, I wanna make sure my family's safe? And then really it does come down to budget. If I have money to spend and I have money sitting around, why not think about an extra room or a capability within your reach that you could put your family into? And again, security versus freedom. The second I lock myself into a box, I don't really have much freedom at that point. I'm kind of locked in there. So let's run the scenario of somebody could light the house on fire at that point. You're locked in a box, they light the house on fire. I'm sure that's in some movie somewhere, if it's not happened in real life. So you have to just think of the capabilities of what you're building. Do you have the budget? Do you have the need? Is your family trained? The best case scenario for me, guys, is that you get the training that you need, and so does your family. Your family's capable of handling a scenario. That's the A+ answer. Then you break it down from there. If it's not realistic to think that your family's going to be capable enough to handle those scenarios, and you have the budget to do it, buy a safe room, build a safe room. You know, the best place to do that is when you're actually building your home. If you have to retrofit into something, that's not a bad thing. There's a lot of companies out there that make a living and are really, really good at retrofitting things. So there are assets out there that you can utilize. You just have to put the work in and do the research. Don't just go Google it and say, okay, that's gonna be good enough. Get good expert advice and do a lot of research. That's not something I would take shortcuts on, but hopefully that at least answers your question from it's not just surface level. I mean, we went into that a little bit, but at least gives you some knowledge and a place to start so you can implement that into your own life. All right, guys, this segment of Dangerous Questions is also brought to you by Mountain Tough. Mountain Tough Plus is the fitness app that's trusted by the dedicated. Who's the dedicated? You guys watching this show. We care about our ability to become assets and to be able to handle these situations, these scenarios. We're asking these questions for a reason. This is a fitness app that gives you no excuses and sets a level of fitness mindset that you guys can take with you everywhere. Mountain Tough is an all-access subscription platform. It gives you access to everything that they have available. World-class home fitness programs, mental training, self-improvement, prehab, rehab, everything that you guys need to set a solid foundation of fitness for your life. Again, you know fitness is really important to me, and I highly recommend this fitness app. And here on Dangerous Questions, we talk about it all the time. You've got to be prepared. Mountain Tough is giving an exclusive discount for all Dangerous Question listeners. Use the code DANGEROUS at mountaintough.com on the monthly subscription. You'll get your first month free, and that's on top of the 14-day free trial, giving you guys 6 weeks to test this out. 6 weeks of free trading at mountaintough.com. Go check it out. All right, next question. Hey Dom, what is your position on pistol caliber carbines for those that don't know? As a dedicated home defense weapon, and would you use a IWI TS12 for a good home defense weapon? Okay, I'll get back to the IWI for a home defense weapon in a second. And again, for those of you who don't know, that's a bullpup shotgun, and there's pros and cons there. But let's talk about pistol caliber carbines here for a second. The one thing that I do appreciate about pistol caliber carbines is that, and what that means is basically you're taking a handgun, 9mm, 45, 40, all the typical the rounds that you would put in a handgun, and you're basically putting them into a carbine. I had a carbine that was an H&K a while back that was a 45 caliber, and it was a great gun. The recoil was low, it was easy to utilize. Again, there's always the question of round capacity, but I do like pistol caliber carbines from the sense of recoil management. And it always comes down to, can I pass one of these things off to one of my family members? Could I give it to my son? Could I give it to my wife? How effective are they going to be at using it? You know, if I think about the platform, here is the caliber, and then here is the platform. How well can it be manipulated? How well can it be utilized? Then I'm going to do my assessment. Is that realistic for my family and my wife to use or not? So it's good in that sense, but it also has a lack of capability. And what is that? Well, when I think about an AR platform, 5.56 is the easiest one to talk about, or a 2.23. That's typically what we're going to see in a home defense scenario. Average higher round count. More capabilities as far as accuracy, ease of use. Now, in a close range setting, can I get the pistol carbine to be as accurate as the AR? 100%. But we start diminishing what its capabilities are when we get past a certain extent. And again, I'm not going to sit here and assume everybody is in an urban setting. You might open up your back door and be staring at 200 yards of land. And in that case, I'm going to tell you, no, put the pistol carbine away and pull out a rifle platform that's going to allow you to reach out and touch somebody if needed, if you're getting contacted or somebody's shooting at you, whatever the case may be. So all of that brings me back to what? Context. What is the context of what you're defending? All in all, I appreciate the pistol caliber carbines. I think they're appropriate. I think they're needed. I think a lot of people could utilize them and learn how to use them pretty quickly. And they're an up and coming capability that I think should be looked at. And you should just ask yourself, is this useful? Is this going to be more useful than a carbine or an AR? That's something to consider. As far as the IWI, the bullpup shotgun, I mean, this is something I've discussed at length over and over again. And I want to communicate clarity here. A shotgun is not going to be my first pick for a home defense scenario. It's just not. You know, people think, okay, well, if I don't know how to aim, then I want this bigger spread, you know, more of a chance to hit something. Well, first of all, I have 5 children. I have other people running around my house. I want accountability of every single round that comes out of my gun. So buckshot, birdshot, that's the last thing that I want flying around in my house. I want to be pinpoint accurate with what I'm aiming at and what I'm shooting. So think about that in the context of your home. Now, if there is a high risk of multiple attackers, it's a capability that you're going to be very deliberate on, you know how to deploy it, then sure, use that capability. The one thing I do like about the bullpup configuration is it does have more of a compact manipulation factor to it. You know, you can use it and keep it very tight for clearing spaces. But again, I want to be accountable for all those rounds, and I want to be pinpoint accurate with other variables that could be in my home, those variables being my children that I love dearly with all my heart. So think about that context in your life. You know, what's your capability? And do you have neighbors? You know, is part of that buckshot going to miss, hit the guy's arm, and then keep going through the wall and go through another apartment? Or do you have neighbors that are close by? These are all things that you need to keep in mind when selecting what type of firearm to use to protect your home. It's not something to take lightly. You should put a lot of thought into it before you make that decision. You know, always considering what is around you, what's above you, what's below you. The best case is being accurate with these firearms. Using something that you can manipulate with ease of use, under a little bit of stress, and something that you could easily pass off to one of your family members as well. Obviously, A+ answer is them being trained, being competent with these platforms, but that at least gives you a base level of what I'm thinking about when I'm selecting these different types of platforms. More than likely, I'm gonna have a pistol or a pistol carbine within reach. That's gonna be my primary go-to. I need it right now. Somebody just kicked the door in and I gotta get to my firearm. Then, I'm going to try to fight to and or escalate, if the time allows, to something a little bit more stable. And what I mean by that is an AR type of platform, a carbine platform that I can really get tight in and be able to use that to be able to clear rooms or even go on the offensive if I needed, if something was going on outside of my home that I was losing control over. Hopefully that helps clear that up for you, whoever asked that question at home, for what you're choosing to do. Put thought into it, guys. Take notes. Do the research. Do your homework. Again, at this point, there's just way too much knowledge out there. I know there's a lot of garbage out there, but there's also a lot of good pros out there that know what they're talking about, and you can put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly. And I know a lot of guys are coming to me to say, hey, what do I need to do? These are questions that I get every week, by the way, so don't feel bad about asking any of these. These are questions that everybody's got that question mark in their head, and I wanted to add a little bit of black and white to what you can do at home. This episode is brought to you by Aimpoint, a name that I'm very familiar with, especially coming up in the teams, running a lot of their gear on our guns that are smaller packages and set up differently. You guys have been asking me a lot about red dots, and these guys are staying on the cutting edge of technology and making sure that guys out there in the field get some of the best stuff out there. Go check them out. The link is down below. They have a special promo for dangerous questions, and like I said, they're setting a standard. Go check them out. All right, let's get to the next question. Okay, so the next question is, I want to hear Dom's take on silencer or suppressor versus no suppressor or silencer. I personally would like to retain my hearing and feel like scrambling for an ear pro in a reactive situation might be unreasonable. And you're right. Scrambling to put ear pro on in a life-threatening scenario, it is unreasonable. It's not the first thing that I'm going to be thinking about. I've been in a lot of scenarios already, and believe me, don't get me wrong, I have really bad hearing damage, And at this point in my life, have been exposed to so much, I probably should have hearing aids. My point is, I've been into enough to know that I could get away with a couple of instances where I didn't have ear pro and still be able to hear. You know, whether it's your adrenaline dumping or your natural protection systems that come in. Is it the A+ answer that you're having to shoot without ear pro? No. But saving your life and your family's life is always going to be the priority, and I don't want to add that step. So, to answer your question, if you had the choice, the capability, the funding, the time, the logistics, the setup, the safe, the protection, all of those things, and you put the work in and the planning, absolutely. Why not have a suppressor on your gun that you're going to rely on to defend your life with? Now, there's pros and cons. That's why I loved Silencer Co. so much. You know, they really were leading the edge on how to integrate these things together. But if I add a suppressor, think about it. You're adding length to your gun as well. So anytime we talk about home defense or clearance or assault type mindset, the less space I'm taking up, the better. I want to have highest accuracy, highest power with the least amount of space taken up, the least amount of bulk that I can grab onto, to be able to tuck it in. If I add a 6-inch or an 8-inch suppressor, well then that's going to give me a little bit to think about as I'm clearing things or moving around. Pros and cons to everything. A+ answer is you find a happy medium that reduces the decibels, protects your hearing a little bit, and you can keep that package locked up until you need it. So apply those in your pros and your cons. What I don't want to do is overthink having to go to the safe and be like, I need to put a suppressor on to save my hearing. Absolutely not. Ditch that. Your life is at stake and so is your family's. The biggest thing is action. If you hadn't had the time to plan or prepare. Now, I always say, if you get that pause within the midst of the fight, if you get a little bit of a lull, again, what does that mean? Well, I throw up surveillance cameras, I get these up, and I say, okay, the guy's on the outside of the house, he's messing around with the lock, he's trying to get in, I've got a limited amount of time, the gun's already in my hand, my family's already safe, and I'm like, oh, what could I do to put on, some ear pro? Okay, fine, go for it. That's probably not the first thing that I'm gonna do, just because I really want all of my hearing in play when it comes to that critical moment that I need to make that decision. And that's the other factor, is that's the last thing I'll end with, is how good is the quality of your hearing, right? We talk about ear pro all the time. I mean, I was involved with a lot of different programs in the military doing R&D, making sure that I had as close to my natural hearing as possible. I worked with Axel for a long time, and those guys make some really, really good quality ear pro. The guys that are making hearing aids and ear pro, they're not too far off. I want to have the hearing be as natural as possible. That way, like the old Peltors, you're not walking around crunching on gravel and you can't even hear what's going on the target. Don't sacrifice your hearing just because you're trying to protect it in order to listen to a very, very important scenario that might unfold in front of you. Again, risk versus gain. I want all of that capability right on the X when I need it the most. Is that worth saving your ear pro? Again, you might hear something that actually causes you to not need to shoot, as opposed to blocking a little bit of your natural hearing, and then you don't calculate something and puts you in a bad situation. Again, I could deep dive on that, and that's something that I was passionate about in the military, in the teams, about making sure that we always had our natural hearing. I mean, the stuff that I saw guys trying to fumble with right before the target, or manipulate, or make on their own, it was comical in some ways, because you'd think tier 1 guys have like the best case scenario, and of course we've made a lot of leaps and bounds over the last 10 years, but still something to consider, that even those guys are trying to figure out a personalized solution that works for them, that's going to be in those critical moments. So take that for what it's worth and apply it to your life during your home defense scenarios. All right, let's get to the next question. What are your thoughts on home surveillance systems? What are some basics that people should know as related to securing their homes? Okay, well, securing your homes, obviously that's kind of a loaded topic as far as the security of it. But just on the surveillance systems alone, like, what are my thoughts? Get one. If you're thinking or considering about a surveillance system in your home, get one. They've become way too obtainable and low cost and economical for you not to. So this is my challenge to everybody watching this in this video. Go get some type of home surveillance setup. They're not expensive at this point, guys. And every single person that I've talked to that's like, man, I gotta go get one now. I need to secure my home. I need to have a level of awareness. And they took it seriously and they went out and bought it the next day. Even if they didn't even pay attention to their budget, they just, they reactionary purchased this thing. Why? Because something happened to them. Something happened in their home and they weren't prepared. Somebody kicked the garage door in and stole their favorite bike. Somebody kicked their back door in and came in and robbed the house or held them at gunpoint. Oh, now I need it. Don't wait for something to happen. Again, it's way too economical at this point. You've got stuff on the shelf of Home Depot you can buy. And again, there's a lot of nuances with all of these different companies and it can be overwhelming. You know, I'm not out there, at least yet, doing reviews on like what security system is going to work better, but I do think they're all pretty much up to par on some level. Awareness, that's the first firearm safety rule, right? Awareness is the first step in becoming aware and taking care of these situations when you're out in town. If I can't see it coming, I can't stop it from happening. Even post-fight, well, who was it? What did they drive up in? What was their demeanor? What did their gait look like? There's a lot of information that we can gain on video just from a low level of awareness. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If you don't have one, shame on you, because you should, especially if you have family. Now, let's put ourselves in this scenario where, like I talked about it briefly before, if it's at night, I'm sleeping, and I hear glass break in the middle of the night, and I'm waking up out of my stupor, how beautiful is it that after getting my firearm out, that I could get my phone up, swipe up, get the code logged in, hit a button, and I have a base level of awareness of what's going on around my house. Oh, I know what door that guy's in now. And again, never mind the in-home and perimeter security. I mean, I could geek out on that for days, talking about what I've done in my home and these different layers of security. But this is another layer. You have the ability to look outside and inside your home now, and what does that do? That gives you a level of preparedness that you didn't necessarily have. If this guy is trying to break in on the side door and I'm watching him do it, well, I know how far I can move up in my house now. You know, I don't need to sit there and scratch my head and be like, well, should I get out of my bedroom or not? Should I go out to the living room? Is that guy in already? I clearly can see, oh, he's still trying to break in. All right, let me move up as close as I can. Hey, family, gather, stay here, point in this direction, whatever direction you give your family, and then I'm gonna layer up into the point where I know I can barricade myself and get behind some type of cover or concealment, and then put myself in the best scenario possible to be able to handle that threat. The bottom line is when it comes to home surveillance systems, it's going to increase your awareness. Awareness is a good thing. Awareness we want. Apply it. Go out, do a little bit of research, find something economical that fits into your lifestyle. 1 to 2 or 3 cameras can make a huge difference in what you're able to see. Again, not to get too long-winded on this, guys, but if you think about it and you actually apply this, what I'm telling you, don't be afraid to get reps in either. And what I'm talking about is that under duress or a heightened level of stimulus, let's say, you're probably pretty good at putting the safe code in or putting your fingerprint in or whatever that process is. You've probably done that a couple of times. If you haven't, again, shame on you. Get to work, do the training. The app on your phone and the awareness that you expect to have is the same exact thing. And yes, of course, there's nuances to home surveillance. We got Wi-Fi issues, you've got battery issues, you've got power outages. Those can all be a variable. Plan on them. But when the event that this stuff is working like it should, you know, you can get battery backups and Wi-Fi backups, you can get crazy. Again, what's your budget? But know how to get into that app. Know that you're logged in, get the repetition in, know exactly when you swipe up, you're going right there, and hitting that button, and that's gonna give you the visual that you need. Because if you're trying to sit here and fumble with the safe and forget where the app is to get the awareness up, you're failing. You're not setting yourself up for success. That is a little bit on home surveillance and awareness in your home. Apply it to your life, and again, go get one, guys.
There were some dark moments. Holy shit.
We ought to probably have dinner sometime.
They were ghosts.
Okay, this guy's serious.
I mean, that's unheard of, right?
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of children digging cobalt out of the ground.
You just sensed that it was out
It's
there.
like they'd been hit by a nuclear bomb.
We're not framing history correctly.
I want adaptability and versatility.
Don't draft Wolf on your fantasy team. He's not going to get the ball this year.
This is going to matter one day.
This is how I pulled myself out.
That's when my eyes were opened.
This is a whole new wildlife enemy, man. This is crazy. Who are these guys?
Us in our own country don't even have the same gratitude towards it.
And he does the right thing because he closes the distance.
We're all programmed in this world to push ourselves even farther.
I don't have to make something important, but what I have to try to do is make something you'll never forget.
All right, so that wraps up talking about home surveillance and awareness around your home. Now, again, I always, I got a smile on my face because I get to do the breakdowns. There's some really good points in these. And, we wanted to dig into home invasions and apply that. And it was tough to find some of these videos. We know there's a lot, and we're building our library here. We want to get better at relating to some of these videos that we're breaking down with the topics that we're covering. But I think we're going to get some good stuff out of these ones as it is anyway. So let's watch the first one. Again, this is where awareness is going to help. Now, this just looks suspicious already. Hopefully, at this point, you're knowing that you wouldn't open the door for these guys. Bag in their hand, gloves on, mask, and now a guy's walking right in. Okay. And obviously, you can't see what's going on inside of the home. All right, so quick pause on this. Obviously, we lost sight of these guys once they dipped into the house, but look at how these guys are dressed. There's a clear indicator here that these are not guys that I want to go answer the door for. Especially, I talk to my wife about this often. Are you expecting who's showing up at the door? You have to be clearly communicating that with each other about who you're letting go to your house. We typically have everything scheduled, on point, know who's showing up, and if they're showing up unannounced, I'm sorry. I'm just not even gonna bother going to the door, especially if my family's home alone. They should be going to prepare for something worse to happen, which clearly is happening in this video. Okay, let it roll. So a lot of back and forth while the guy's over there. Is that guy catching on to what's going on over there? Oh, there's multiple dudes across the street. All right, that was fun. Of course, this is where awareness, those guys across the street might have been like, look, I'm just trying to do my job, don't know what's going on here. But again, head on a swivel. If you can help somebody out, those guys could have jumped in this fight. Primary thing in this is I would never open the door for somebody that looked like that, period, bottom line, end of story. Know that before it even happens. And if you haven't ran through these in your head or visualized these things in your own home, then start doing it. Take the time to get these reps in now. Hey, what happens if somebody does show up unannounced and just knocks on my door? We've become way too lackadaisical. I mean, let's be honest. In the world of Amazon, where somebody's knocking on your door or somebody else's door three times a day, all week, even on Sundays, it's abnormally high at this point. So people have gotten very, very comfortable. Criminals know that, and they are absolutely capitalizing on the fact that you have your guard down. You're expecting somebody to show up every single day, and Amazon, they come and they go. There's really no reason for me to have any interaction with those guys, no matter where I am, where I'm at, or where I'm traveling. But if they're not scheduled and you don't know for sure, and you haven't talked to somebody from the company that's supposed to come visit your house, there is absolutely zero interest in me opening up the door and figuring out what these guys want. Again, I can handle a lot. If I'm home by myself and two guys show up like this, I might just be like, okay, let's see what these guys want, But that's me. What's the level of training that we have and how can we apply it? I do not expect my children to do that for these guys. Absolutely not. Don't answer the door for anybody. Go start making a phone call and start arming yourself to handle a situation like this. If it shows up unannounced or in an unpredictable manner, you want to be prepared. The key thing is, again, look, ring.com on the top, which is what the surveillance is, and you can buy them at Home Depot, but this is a level of awareness. Could these guys have at least looked at what was going on before they opened the door? Maybe they couldn't see out the door, maybe they could have, but I certainly wouldn't have opened the door if it was these guys because they clearly just strolled right in and they were there for something. There was clearly something they wanted. So a higher level of awareness would have helped out a lot. Good on this guy for taking action, and he's getting ready to go in for round 2 because where'd that other guy go? All right, so this next video is in a hotel lobby. Let's see what unfolds here. This is a good learning point.
All I saw was that you punched the guy for no reason, man.
I punched him?
Yeah,
You want to clarify that?
Yeah.
You were did I punch you? Did I punch you? Did I punch you? Did I punch you? Did I hit you?
You didn't hit me, but you were.
You guys want to fucking ball fly?
Stop.
Hey! Hey!
All right, pause. So you got this guy stepping in, obviously. You know, they're already in a heightened level of awareness. You know, this guy's pacing around. I mean, that's typical bad guy behavior, right? We can pick up on that from a mile away. He's mouthing off. He's angry. He's upset. You know, clearly there was already a pre-altercation. You know, this is what we're missing in a lot of these videos is context. You know, what was the pre-fight? What happened before this? The key thing that I want to talk about here is that guy in the white shirt that was kind of, you know, in between the guy that there was a clear altercation with. Already you know that there's aggressive behavior. There was already physical altercation. I don't care who you are. You know, whether that guy in the white with the tie looks like he can fight or not, if I'm talking to you and you've never been in a fight in your life, I don't care. If there's already been physical altercation, keep your hands up. There's nothing wrong in this situation with this guy being, you know, he's pressing the issue. He's asking the same question, you know, 8 times in a row, which is like, okay, clearly, you know, it makes me think that there's alcohol involved here or there's some type of pre-fight indicator that's happening. So that's why my hair is standing up on the back of my neck. And this guy in the white shirt, all intents and purposes, should have just been like, hey man, I'm just trying to figure this solution out. This is why having this obstacle in this fence and hands up in this nonviolent posture is so important, because if that guy decides to headbutt, even if you are not expecting it and he ambushes you, this is something that's going to slow down that attack a little bit. You're going to respond and be like, whoa, okay, something's coming towards me and I'm trying to defend that or push it away. You know, again, goes right back to what we always talk about with Tony Blair and working the spear system, the flinch, you know, all of those human instincts coming into play and then using them to your advantage. You do not need to be a ninja to know how to do that. And that could have saved this guy probably a dental bill, because my guess is that is a good chance he's going to be spitting out chiclets here because of that headbutt right to the jaw, not expecting it. But either way, put your hands up. If you find yourself all of a sudden in one of these situations, boom, the hand should go right up. I can do that in a very non-threatening way, and that's what I wanted to point out in this specific scenario in this hotel lobby. Again, good on the guy that was standing by. You know, how much worse would this have gotten? I don't know. You know, clearly he hit somebody, now he's headbutting somebody else. We don't want to get it to be any worse. So just subdue that guy, get him controlled. Everybody else steps in at that point, and it's like, okay, what's our next step here? You know, this guy's being a D-bag. It's time to restrain him and get him redirected here, right? Until we can talk some sense into him. So, all right, so that was that video. We're gonna play this one and break this down. Not much of a pre-fight indicator, but I'll explain that in a second. Clearly at a pet store, and we've got a guy walking in with a bag in his hand. Now, I'll point something out here in a second. This pet store owner, he responds and decides to do something about it. Now again, the intent here of this guy, he's like, I need to do something, but clearly has really zero training. He just does some type of a hit check because he sees that the guy's vulnerable. And then from there, I think he's still fumbling to figure out what to do. Like, well, what do I do next? The guy's on the ground. I have this thing in my hand. What do I do with it? I'm shaking it a little bit. I mean, you could tell there's a lot of indecisiveness in his behavior with a real no way of thinking about that this guy has any type of training. So they tussle each other down the road. They disappear off screen here in a second. And you'll see in a second that he ends up coming back. And I'm not sure if that was a blade. It looked like a mini baton, but this is the victory walk. He comes back with the guy's jacket, and hopefully the bird's in there, I think still. But he gets his bird back. Now, first and foremost, I'm never going to be able to be you. What you need, what's important to you in your life is going to be different for everybody. And so this guy fighting over this parrot, is that worth it? You have to make that decision for yourself. I'm never going to be able to make that decision for you. Most days I'm thinking to myself, what the threat of this guy is and what he's doing and what's the principle. I have to determine that. I can't even really sit here and tell you that I would just totally let that guy walk out just, unaffected in that scenario. But what I can say is go back to the beginning. This is where awareness is really important, because pause. Look, this guy is already preloading something with this guy coming back into the store. Now, we talked about surveillance in this episode. There's a video camera outside that's capturing this and capturing his reaction at the same time. There had to have been some type of pre-fight indicator, because a guy walking down the road with the little glimmer of that he would be able to see here with the bag, there's nothing about that would have told me, okay, I need to preload a weapon here because this guy looks shady. Something seems to have happened before this, at least to my best knowledge, that this happened. So he was able to prepare, then let the video roll. Guy walks in the store. He's already got something in his hand, and then boom, once he responds, he's going out there to tussle with this guy. Pause. Get training. If you think you're going to be the one to step up and do something, know what you're utilizing. Know the weapons that you have at your disposal. Know the legality of them. Know how you're going to implement them. Know how it's going to unfold. Visualize and train for these scenarios. The pre-fight indicators here were important because there was clearly a preemptive part of this that occurred that we didn't get to see. So knowing that that's the case, you have to make that determination, like, is this worth my life? Did this guy have a blade? Kind of almost looks like they knew each other, right? He's like, all right, I'm just going to go after this guy, not really hurt him that much. Know that maybe that guy's not armed. It seems like there was a lot of pre-thought to this before he went out there and tried to get this. This guy just strolled in with the bag, just trying to capture this parrot. Maybe he had to give him back or something. I don't know why he's going in the store to take a parrot. But that's what I wanted to point out in learning from this specific scenario. So something I thought was at least worth talking about. That was the video breakdowns in this. Again, those other ones were really good too, especially from the home invasion standpoint. I wanted to stay home invasion fight specific, but take notes, learn from them, apply them to your life. This has been Dangerous Questions for this episode, Ironclad original. As always, God bless you guys. Continue to become assets, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.